So hi again. It's been a while since I uploaded a YouTube video. Had a bout of COVID, and I've also been thinking very hard about what direction I want my artwork to go in this year. I did a hell of a lot of work for other people last year. It was very enjoyable, most of it, but I think this year I really want to concentrate on issues, shall we say, that I want to highlight with my art. Anyway, before I upload the next cartoon workshop, I thought I'd do a short one uh, about the creative process, which obviously that's what this channel is about. I'm very interested in it. And I've been thinking, because I am a disabled artist, been disabled since birth, which has forced me to be left-handed. Had I not been born with Erb's palsy, I would most likely be right-handed, and that has clearly affected how I think, how I physically hold the pen, for example. And I thought I'd throw a few things together that you might find interesting the next time you're having a look at a bit of artwork, or maybe going to an art gallery, because this is about how we actually read drawings. And I do mean read them because let's go to the first picture here. I'm a left-handed artist, and as you see my little cartoon that I've drawn with paint net. I'm not David Hockney. I'm not very good with these kind of paint programs, but little hand holding a pen here. So my natural tendency is to move my arm, my hand, from left to right across and around the paper, the surface I'm drawing on. So left to right and clockwise. And for anybody under 40 that isn't grown up with seeing traditional clock faces, this is a traditional clock face. The name clockwise, it might become redundant in the English language because people are just not used to seeing clocks with the hands of the clock going around from left to right. Anyway, so that's the reason for the words clockwise here. And here's how an English-speaking reader who reads from left to right, and I don't just mean English, I mean any of the Latin languages. So anything that's spoken across Europe, for example, American, we all read and write from left to right. So a left to right reading person is going to naturally follow the movement of my drawings as a left-handed artist. And I'm bearing this sort of thing in mind when I'm actually creating, because you're always looking at the piece of paper and thinking, well, where should I put certain elements? Where's the perspective? How do I draw people's eyes into this particular element? How do I use shading? How do I use colour? And I'm going to show you now three pictures which show the very strong left to right bias of my drawings. And these three are all illustrations to poetry by Luke Hartnott that I did last year. It's going to be published sometime soon this year. And here's this first picture of the horseman. As you can see, the shade and the light is all biased from left to right. The picture is dark on the left and is lightening up towards the right hand side. The figure and the horse are both facing towards the right. There's a focal point that I'm drawing the eye towards up on the hill on the right hand side of the picture there. Everything is biased left to right in this picture. Here's the next one. Again, very strong left to right bias. The figure is facing right. The buildings are all angled towards the right. I'm sure you can see how clear that is. And in fact, in that one, I've put some strong vertical lines in to try and counteract the strong right leaning, because, I feel that you have to do that sometimes. This next one, again, very, very strong left to right bias. it almost makes you feel a bit that you're leaning over, which is what I wanted to achieve with this picture. And for me as a left-handed artist, it's very difficult to try and do it the other way. So here's a picture of a magazine cover I've recently done, Primary Matters, and let's zoom in on the picture here. This picture, I consciously tried to draw the opposite direction from right to left. So if you're left-handed and you're trying to draw from right to left, you're actually working across your body. It doesn't feel natural. You have to kind of force it. And so you can see the right to left angles in this drawing. And I think you can, I don't know, I'm telling you that this was an unnatural thing for me to do. So you can see that this is the story of Scheherazade, by the way, telling the tales to the Sultan. So you can see that she's facing right to left. Her hands, the way the guy is lying there on this kind of sofa, the angle of his hands and arms, everything is angled right to left in this picture. Even the moon, even the angle of the light there is coming from the right. So that's what I've done in that picture, and it's really quite hard for me. So here's the next picture. This is another little sketch I've done of a right-handed artist drawing in the opposite way, going round the picture counterclockwise and moving their arm and their hand from right to left across the board. So here's a conundrum for you. As an English-speaking reader, are we reading a picture differently when it's drawn by a left-handed artist as opposed to a right-handed artist? Now, I've shown you examples of my artwork showing the very strong left-to-right bias. What happens when we see a picture with a very strong right-to-left bias? How do we read it? Do we read it differently? And is it to do with the size of the artwork, the situation we see it in, the lighting it's under? Is it in a book? Is it in an art gallery? All these factors come into play. So what I thought we'd look at is probably one of the most complicated drawings you could ever see in your life, paintings. And here it is, and I've done a little cartoon character looking at this picture. This is probably one of the most famous paintings in the world, Guernica by Pablo Picasso. It's a massive picture, and so if you're viewing this in real life or a copy of it in a gallery, you'd be standing in front of it, and I'm sure you'd be wondering, well, what the hell is this, and where do I start looking at this? How do I start looking at it? So let's just apply some of the things we've been talking about up to now to this picture. If you're an English-speaking person, your only solution to a picture as complicated as this, with this many elements in it, a confusion of where do I start looking, is to start reading it left to right, because that is how we're trained to read books and to go around the picture clockwise. And again, that may only apply to older people, but that's how I'm, the term I'm using to describe the way that your eye travels around from left to right. So on to the next picture. And so this means that you will most likely start looking at a huge picture like this on the left-hand side of the picture, looking at the elements, starting down near the left side and starting to work your way around to try and make sense to try and work out what the story is, what the artist's trying to tell you. And here's the final picture of this image, and Picasso was a right-handed artist, and I've drawn the angle arrows in, and I hope you can see the very strong right to left movement of this picture. I'm not an expert on Guernica. I dropped out of school at the age of 16. I am a completely self-taught disabled artist, but even just looking at this little copy of this picture here, the right to left bias is so strong even if the guy was using a step ladder to draw it, or it was laid on the floor, or he had assistants helping him, nevertheless, he was right-handed, and you can clearly see the right to left bias. All the elements are facing towards the left. The driving momentum of the picture is all right to left. So with a picture like this, maybe we should start looking at it in the lower right-hand side and read it anti-clockwise. Now, I'm not saying that before you go to an art gallery, you should research the background of each artist, were they left or right-handed. That would be impractical. But I think you'll find it very interesting to apply this the next time you do go to a gallery, or or even look at a picture in a book, an art book, and really concentrate on where where your eye first lands on the picture, and how you start reading the picture and how you start analysing it. And I think you'd find that a really useful exercise in how you work out what the artist was trying to say. And it might give you some insight also into how we actually create, because we are trying to think of how people are going to view our end, our end product, our end results. So I hope you find that interesting. And in the next couple of days, I'll be putting up another cartoon workshop, which hopefully we can apply some of this to it. I'll see you in the next one.